Coach Michael Hagan won't finalise his side until later in the week, with a few players trying to shake injury. Prop Matt Parsons didn't train with the team this evening as he continues to be dogged by the same groin injury that required surgery to repair, and now he has a calf problem to boot. The same story for Paul Marquette, who shares a similar lower leg injury, but both will travel to Coffs tomorrow in a match their coach wants everyone to be 100% for.
And the fact that we need to start the season well because we've got 4 of our 6 games away from home, we can't afford to have blokes just sort of ease their way into things.
Andrew Johns can't wait to play, but he will rest until the Maitland trial against Parramatta, where he'll also take on the new captaincy role.
The more I think of it, the more I'm excited by it.
The new club captain feels the same.
Andrew and I have both been under good captains, like with Butsy, Chief and all those sort of blokes, so it's up to us to sort of move along and help those younger blokes out.
As for milestone achievements, Joey is looking for results rather than accolades.
Maybe at the end of the year if I'm lifting a trophy up, I'd say it might be, but hopefully I've got 4 years of being captain and hopefully I can leave my mark as the other captains have.
Meanwhile, there were nights trials of a different kind at the Newcastle Workers Club overnight, with the cheerleader tryouts. 80 tread the boards, but only 14 to 20 girls will make the final cut.
On his last court appearance, Jerome Longbottom was threatened with a jail term, but the 18-year-old from Merewether left Newcastle Court today on a happier note after being sentenced for his second drink driving charge in only his first year of driving. A magistrate disqualified him from driving for a year and placed him on a 12-month good behaviour bond after the high school student was charged with a low-range PCA offence while on a special licence last year. While handing down the sentence, the magistrate said it is highly unusual for someone so young to be before the court on a driving matter for a second time. I don't know whether it was an alcohol problem or just bad luck. Meanwhile, little sympathy was extended for a man being sentenced in court a short time later for drink driving and driving recklessly. The unrelated case involved the actions of aircraft technician Troy Whitler last November, sentenced today to 2 months jail for returning a blood alcohol reading of 0.135 and driving more than 40 kilometres over the speed limit past a group of people standing outside a nightclub in Newcastle. During sentencing, the magistrate described his actions as absolute lunacy and said they could have easily led to tragedy. You have to be taught a lesson, and I hope the message gets through to others. The 25-year-old has appealed. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
While the scorching outdoor temperatures may be affecting us all, few are feeling the heat like the rural fire service. Today, crews at a command centre near West Wallsend were monitoring conditions in case of yet another flare-up. Surprisingly, no serious fires were reported, allowing some time to control existing blazes, like those near Mount Sugarloaf and at Belmont.
It's very hard on firefighters, and we sort of hoping that the cool change that's forecast on the weekend will bring a lot of relief.
While some people today managed to find temporary relief from the heat, another very high to extreme fire danger warning is expected for tomorrow. That's prompted the Rural Fire Service to issue a total fire ban.
That means to the community that no fires are allowed in the open, with the exception of electric or gas barbecues, which people can have on their properties with adult supervision.
They also have to be within 20 metres of a dwelling with running water nearby. And because having a barbecue has become a time-honoured tradition on Australia Day, fire crews are asking the public to be mindful of these potentially dangerous conditions. Adam Harper, NBN News.
Brendan O'Connor dreams of one day playing drums in a top-name band. The only trouble is his next-door neighbours, the Smiths, claim the noise coming from the garage where he practices is too loud. In June last year, they launched legal action to stop him playing.
He's no Gene Krupa. He hasn't learnt much in 2 years, and I'm not a music fan.
If he doesn't like it, so be it. But, I don't like being woken up by his lawnmower Sunday mornings. You just deal with it.
The 18-year-old percussionist was today summoned to appear in Newcastle local court, but talks with Nigel Smith and his lawyers for a drum-playing timetable arrangement proved fruitless. The O'Connors now facing potentially even higher legal costs, with the case destined for a hearing. The 18-year-old says he can't quite believe that it's reached a stage where he's been summoned to court.
It's ridiculous. Look, I'm just playing the drums, mate. It's nothing.
But Mr Smith maintains court action was his only option.
Who's got the power to stop it? No one seems to have the power. Well, you go to the police, they don't seem to do anything about it. You go to the council, they back out of it. And it comes down where you've got to pay for it out of your own pocket.
The hearing will take place on the 3rd of May. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
The Lord Mayor of Newcastle and the mayors of Port Stephens, Cessnock and Maitland were on the tarmac at Newcastle Airport today. They believe there's the potential to attract hundreds of New Zealanders to the region every week, bringing money and jobs.
There are already 500 people a week travelling from the Hunter to New Zealand via Sydney. Now what we'd like to do is get those people travelling out of here.
2 years after the initial idea was conceived, the mayors will next month jet across the Tasman to try and convince airline operators and travel companies in New Zealand that Newcastle Airport is not only capable of handling larger jets, but is also in the middle of a rich tourist region.
And I think we'll see the time when you'll see direct flights in the order of 2 or 3 a week. That's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen as a result of this delegation directly, but the delegation is part of that process.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
While tonight's opponents, the Eastern Pride, have been strengthened in recent weeks, Newcastle United are scratching around for a fit side. Peter Sekenis and Anthony Surgeon will make their returns from a week off with injury, while Brad Widgerek has been rushed back after almost a month out with a chronic shin complaint.
Unfortunately, we've got a few players out. It's not I suppose it wasn't the best way that I wanted to get back in the team.
Widgerek required 4 cortisone injections early in the week to make it through training and will start off the bench tonight.
I've sort of responded good to them, I suppose, and I can't really feel much pain in there at the moment, so hopefully it's one of those things where I can go out, and if I do have to play longer than expected, it might be all right.
There's no doubting the importance of tonight's match. Coach Lee Sterry begins contract negotiations with the club next week, and his side sits second last on the ladder, just above the Pride. The club, meanwhile, is expected to make formal approaches to young guard Chad Mansley after the 20-year-old trained with his old side during the week after returning from England.
It was a double celebration for Newcastle's newly crowned Citizen of the Year this morning. Author Paul Walsh again recognised for his efforts to promote reconciliation in the Hunter with a place in the Australia Day Honours list.
I actually cried when I read the letter, but what really came up for me, sincerely, was the feeling of gratitude to all those hundreds of black and white volunteers who would actually put me in that position.
Former federal politician David Simmons also earned a place in Hunter history, collecting an OAM for his service to Parliament and work through the local business chamber.
Having been a resident of the Hunter region for less than 5 years, I regard that as a particularly great tribute.
No doubt the award was a treat for one of the Hunter's most tireless volunteers, Bernice Jensen, the founder of the Kookaburra Carers Auxiliary at John Hunter Hospital, accepting it in her typically humble way.
Well, you don't do it for this, because if I had a wand I would wave it for every volunteer that's here, because they all deserve it. We're a team here.
Hunter's best-known Santa Claus, Jack Carney, was also noted for his volunteer work. Meanwhile, Professor Terry Hall took time out to celebrate his OAM with colleagues and friends who've supported his endeavours in coal research.
The full measure of that work is what's being recognised today.
Other recipients included Paralympian Stuart Pike, Yvonne Selby with a Conspicuous Service Medal awarded to Major Ian Thomas. Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
Surf, sun and sand, but the one key ingredient missing for kite surfers was the wind today at Dixon Park Beach. Organisers managed to get 3 heats of the tournament surfed, but later decided to cancel those results and start from scratch tomorrow. But it did allow for an expression session, and these guys put words into action, with big airs and plenty of manoeuvres the order of the day. While it doesn't figure in the final placings, the session still earned New Zealander Kane Hartle some pocket money, with the Kiwi winning ahead of Cronulla's Darren Marshall. Hartle is ranked 5th in the world, and some have tipped him as the one to beat in the competition proper tomorrow. Wind really wasn't a problem for the Town to Torres ski race, with these guys just relying on raw power and heaps of it. It's one of the quickest trips you can make from Newcastle to Raymond Terrace, with the superclass boats able to do it in around 12 minutes. Showdown looked like it would make it 3 title wins, roaring up the Hunter and into its hometown, with skiers Daniel Cotton and Mitch Galvin making the difficult look easy. But Galvin's brother Tim went one better, with Steve Robinson behind the Sting, which made the round trip in 24 minutes 56.9 seconds, some 6 seconds ahead of Showdown, to make it 2 wins in a row. Singleton-based crew Crazy Horse home third. It's said you can't win a 72-hole tournament in the third round, but you can lose it, and a few had the shakes early today. Englishman Nick Doherty lost 2 strokes at the second to drop back to 8 under, but recovered to Carter 70 and sit 2 shots off the leaders. Overnight leader Adam Groom dropped down the leaderboard after dropping 2 shots. There is 2 to catch. One of those is Luke Hickmont, who shot a 7 under round 65 to sit on 14 under with Marcus Both. National Women's Basketball was in town again today, with the Sydney Panthers to play Dandenong tomorrow afternoon. Today, though, the Stars taught the next generation, some of whom may get to reach the National League, playing from a side hopefully based in Newcastle.
I mean, it'd be great if it was. I'd love to come back home and, spend some more time with my family and friends.
Batkovic is one of 3 Hunter players that play for the Sydney side that's beaten the Rangers twice this season. However, Dandenong boast Penny Taylor. She scored 52 points last weekend, one short of the all-time league record. The National Sailball Championships continued on Lake Macquarie today, and it was won for local champ Michael Lancey. He won the second heat after placing second in the opening race. That has him in the lead for the title, which will be decided tomorrow.
Out at sea, the small Zodiac is hardly in the same class as Matthew Flinder's own vessel, the Investigator. But the 5 men on board are all trying to copy his massive trip in the name of charity.
On the way around, we'll be talking to people about men's health, specifically prostate cancer.
And there's also a chance of making it into the pages of history themselves, namely the Guinness Book of Records.
We will be circumnavigating Australia following Matthew Flinder's original charts.
The 5 friends left Darling Harbour yesterday and expect to take only 170 days to complete the 35,000 kilometre voyage.
But we've known each other for some 30 plus years. We served in the army together, so we know pretty much what is expected.
Adam Harper, NBN News.
Showing plenty of toe in training today, Andrew Johns can't wait to step into his first game of the year this weekend against Parramatta, but he's far from impressed with a new kicking rule that's also being trialled.
There's no reward for showing a bit of skill. I spoke to Craig Field about it and a few other the Tigers blokes, and they want it all scrapped, and I think we'll have one more week of it and hopefully it'll be gone.
This is what they're talking about. An attacking kick from within 40 metres of the try line can simply be grounded by the opposition to earn their side a tap restart.
No, I'm not a fan of it, and I don't think many people at the ground would have been, given that the conditions meant that kicking became very important.
Hagan was impressed with his side's hit out against the Tigers. Both sides scored 5 tries each, with goal kicking the difference in the 30-22 loss. The most pleasing thing was to record no serious injury, with prop Clinton O'Brien only expected to miss a week with a shoulder problem. Fullback Robbie O'Davis, meanwhile, played all but 10 minutes and performed strongly in his return match. And against the Eels, the squad only gets stronger.
I think we're going to get better in the next couple of weeks, and obviously as players come back to us, certainly Andrew and Matthew Gidley will add a bit to us this week, and then Matty Parsons hopefully will be okay for this week.
I was even laying in bed last night thinking about it, so it comes around quick, this time of year, but I'm sticking to go.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Second in the last national championship, today Michael Lancey was justifiably pleased with going one better.
Yeah, it feels great. Yeah, no, it's I'm still 19, so it's actually come quite early for me, and I'm just hopefully going to go from strength to strength from now on.
Lancey's rivals will be hoping he won't. Over the 3 days of competition on Lake Macquarie, he won 6 of 9 races. His worst result, 4th out of 70.
It wasn't really easy. I was racing against a guy from Brazil for most of the regatta. The only thing was that I end up sort of coming through in the end of each race.
But the 19-year-old will have little time to reflect on his win. The state titles are held in Sydney this weekend, and double is the final round of the Olympic ranking series. Lancey is the current leader and stands to earn training and financial benefits, which he'll put towards an overseas campaign.
As far as getting to Europe, that's a major cost, and as any sort of assistance is really appreciated.
Italian company Mondo manufactured the synthetic rubber athletics track at Stadium Australia used during the Olympics. Based on talks with company heads during the height of the Games, Premier Bob Carr has now announced the flooring giant will build a manufacturing facility worth at least $10 million in the Hunter Valley.
I think for this year it will be the first in a number of positive announcements. 150 manufacturing jobs will have an effect on the economy. That is enough to mean that there will be flow-on jobs.
That's expected to be another 150 jobs. The company citing the geographical advantages of Newcastle Port as a major drawcard, but a site hasn't yet been confirmed.
There's good workforce available. So we'll give you the address when we choose the place.
Newcastle would be the company's first ever manufacturing base for the Asia-Pacific region. The company already established across Europe and North America.
I think Newcastle in the Hunter will continue to be an industrial heartland, not just for this state but indeed for the nation.
Mondo's website says the company's products have a broad application, anything from ice skating rinks to gymnastics facilities. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
Childhood asthma has almost reached epidemic proportions, with new research showing 2 out of every 5 primary school children are being diagnosed with the disease each year. In a bid to better understand what triggers this disease, Newcastle researchers are conducting a long-term study. The study began in 1979 with 250 children being tested in their first year of life. Around 150 of these original participants have followed the trial through to the present. Most are now 21.
The reason for looking at children now that they're about to turn 21 is the next critical period of development of asthma and allergies.
Around 40% of the participants suffer from asthma or allergies, the same proportion as the general population. Researchers are looking at the effect genetic and environmental factors have on children with asthma and allergies, and how these conditions persist into adult life.
One of the outcomes that we hope to have from this study are looking at the risk factors for the development of asthma and allergy, and while we can't prevent it in the children who have already developed asthma and allergy, it may help in prevention methods for future generations.
The latest part of this study will continue for a 12-month period, funded in part by a $34,000 grant from the Hunter Medical Research Institute. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Val Cost arrived in Broadmeadow today to receive an Australian Sports Medal for her pioneering role in professional women's jockeying. By her side, Liz Mulliner from the Advocate for Survivors of Child Abuse. And given Val's claims today, that's no surprise. Val says she was repeatedly abused between the ages of 11 and 22 by males in the racing industry, mostly in Newcastle.
There was ongoing sexual abuse, rapes, sexual assaults, sexual harassments by at least 19 men, youths and boys that I can recall.
Val alleges the worst of those incidents occurred when, at the age of 13, she was raped by 7 males over a 5-hour period. She says fear of not being believed and of being banned from the industry prevented her from speaking out.
If I'd had the courage to speak beforehand, then other women wouldn't have to go through it. And I know they have and do.
But the alleged constant abuse forced her to leave after 6 years. The Newcastle Jockey Club says it's strictly a matter for the stewards, who are responsible for all licensed personnel. But the Thoroughbred Racing Board in Sydney says because Val is no longer a licensed jockey, the matter should be referred to the police. Catherine Turner, NBN News.
It was the first National League game played at Maitland in recent memory, but it took no time at all for the Knights to make themselves comfortable, to Manatahu finding space for Robbie O'Davis. Not long after, Jason Moody slipped one past his old clubmates for Parramatta's first points. There was little he could do to stop a speeding Darren Albert or Matthew Gidley, but his tackle on the Kangaroo centre as he scored had a major impact. Gidley broke a bone just above his ankle, and reports indicate he'll miss 6 to 8 weeks. He'll have more scans tomorrow. But aside fans, let alone his club, loved to see was Robbie O'Davis on a solo sidestepping mission to score as he looked to kiss his bad luck goodbye. However, the fullback didn't leave without some sort of scare, injuring his hand as he continued to stand out in his return to full-time football. Although Josh Perry has impressed in the trials, he needed little effort to finish off this. But it was the Eels who finished with a real flurry. Teenager Pat Richards in for one, while Daniel Wagon's effort helped seal a 34-30 win for Parramatta. The Stars came out early in the twilight meet, which kick-started the National Grand Prix season. For local middle-distance runners, it was their first ever taste of top-level action, and they held their own. Angela Sheehan 6th in the 1500 metres. Michael Bowie going one better in the 800-metre men's final. It took just 13.74 seconds for Jackie Munro to take the 100-metre hurdles. She beat Debbie Edwards in the process, the same runner who beat the Madawi athlete for a spot in Sydney 2000. Kyle Vanderkuyp did the 110-metre trip in just over 14 seconds in his return to competition. Patrick Johnson had nothing in his way to comfortably take the blue ribbon sprint final. But almost the whole night a battle raged in the triple jump pit, with Andrew Murphy setting the mark to catch at 17.07. Local Michael Perry had never cleared 16 metres before the meet, but reached that and more in one mighty leap to land second and beat some fancied internationals in the process.